And the great thing is in triggers, when the map starts, you can actually check what the lobby set to and then change your map based on that. So it's a good useful thing to let the game host kind of decide what the game's going to be like and talk to the lobby before they actually start the game. So you don't have to do any voting in the actual map itself. So anyways, you got this all set up, but you don't want it. You don't want these basic units. You want custom zerglings. So you go to the data editor, which is basically a way of editing any sort of unit, ability, effect, any kind of visual, sound, anything. If you want to change anything from the game, this is where you go. And as you can see from this drop-down list, there's a pretty hefty list of stuff here. The most important thing probably is units, and this is where all the unit stuff is. So you can see pretty much every unit here. Now let's say I want to find my zergling. Well, my zergling's here, and let's say I want to get rid of burrow. So every unit has some abilities, and then they have a command card, and the command card is this thing on your bottom right of your UI that you see. So I can see the burrow icon here, so I'm just going to remove it, press OK, and then I can see he has the actual abilities still ingrained into him. So I want to get rid of both of these and press OK. So I just pressed those red X's and they're gone, and I pressed OK. So now he can't use it. And I mean, you could have abilities in here, as many as you wanted, but just not show them, and he would never be able to use them. But anyways, that's not really useful. And let's get our morph to Baleen. I don't want that either. And the other thing that all units can have beside abilities is behaviors. And behaviors are like passive abilities. So for instance, Banshee Cloak or Bunker Range Bonus or Corruption. So while abilities are things that you can trigger yourself, like press buttons, behaviors are things that happen passively. And I'll explain more about that later. And then every unit also has a weapon, or no weapon, I guess. But so every unit has a weapon, and you can see I have all these nice views here. Make sure you have these checked in the same order as I do. I have basically everything checked, pressed down here, and that's basically the best view to have for this editor. And don't press this one down because that's like the raw data. That's ugly. So anyways, you can see that they've given us a nice little tree view here to show everything linked to this zergling unit. Well, most of everything. So the zergling unit has, of course, the abilities attack, move, and stop, and the actors. So actors are a new thing in StarCraft 2, and it's basically anything visual or anything audio is in the game is an actor. So the zergling unit itself is just a bunch of numbers, and it's represented in-game by its actor. And inside the actor, you can see it's set to my zergling unit, and then it actually has a model in here, so that the actor actually sets how it looks. So if you click View, now you can see I went to Models, and then Models itself specify an actual model file. So it's kind of a chain here. And if I go back to my actual zergling unit, let's go back to units. I don't know where I am here. Okay, so back in here, you can see I have my actor, and the great thing about this tree view is you don't have to switch to actors and then find your zergling in here. You can stay right in your units here and just find the relevant stuff you need. So you have your actor. It sets the scale, 1, it's set to 1, or a random scale if you wanted, and it has events. Events are important. Most of them are set by default. When the unit birth of a zergling happens, it's going to create this sound emitter. When the unit birth of a zergling happens, it's going to create this actor. Just by having create here, it creates this actor, which is the zergling model. And when revive happens, when construction happens, when blah blah blah, death, when whatever, zergling gets upgraded, it needs to change the model swap, whatever. I mean, it needs to swap the model. And you also have sounds. You want to set this if you're making a custom unit. You want to change zergling attack to whatever sound you want, and scroll through. So actors can control everything like that, and the icons as well. Highlight tooltip. So this is all pretty important when you're making a new unit or changing a unit. I could change any of these. If I wanted my zerglings to be twice, I could put twice as big. I could put 2 for all there. And then go back in here, you can see they're a lot bigger. So we go back to the data editor, and now so the weapon I was talking about, the zergling's weapon, it appears here too. So weapons are an actual data type themselves. So that way you can, if you make one weapon, you can give it to a zergling, or you can give it to a zealot if you're doing something crazy. And that's a pretty good thing because it allows for a lot of customization. So we have this weapon which specifies the amount of times it can attack per second, and the range, icon, a tooltip, options like any of this stuff. and whatever. And all weapons have an effect. So let's see, where's the effect? Here's the effect. So the effect is Zergling Claw's damage. And you can tell I haven't mentioned anything about damage. So if we scroll up, we can actually see it's shown here. Or you could actually go to the effects tab and find it, but this is a lot easier. So the actual damage that the weapon does is specified through an effect. And it does 5 damage, as you can see right there. And all this other stuff that we don't really care about. But like things like this are important. You want it to acquire if you attack someone. You want it to do stuff like that. So anyways, going back to effects here, actually, all abilities and behaviors actually use effects. And so if you're making any sort of abilities, you're going to want to know what abilities are, behaviors are, and effects are. So say you have an ability. Let's pick a random one. Zealot Charge. Actually, that's a pretty complicated one. Let's not look at that one. Stim Pack. Where's Stim Pack? What the hell? Where's Stim Pack? Oh, it's under Marine. That's why. So Stim Pack's a pretty basic one. So the Stim Pack is because the user has to press Stim Pack, it's an ability, not a behavior. And it's ability of type... hold on, I can't double click. That's odd. It's an ability of type effect instant because it happens instantly. And if you right click and go add object, so you want to add like, you know, roar or something, click suggest. This is its actual in-game name. So if you click suggest, it'll just make it, if I had blah, 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 it'll just make it whatever it is without spaces. And that's the sort of in-editor behind the scenes name. This is the in-game name. And you can make it different types of abilities. So we can see that there's a lot here. Even I don't know what some of them are. But the effect instant is what, and you press OK, is what Marine Stim Pack is, as you can see right there. And what it does is as soon as it's clicked, it will, well, you got to make sure you have a button for it. So you have the execute. When it executes, you have a requirement here, which means you've researched use Stim Pack, but also you have a default button, which is how it appears on the UI. And then to do that, sorry, I'm getting a bit like off topic here, but there's buttons. So then somebody at Blizzard made the Stim Pack button. Where is it? Use Stim Pack. So this button can have, you know, you set the icon, the hotkey, the name, whatever race, tint by race, and then tooltip. And then it automatically changes these ones up here if you change these sides. You press OK, you make what you would have added your button, and then you go back to your abilities and you find your whatever Marine Stim Pack. And so they have a command, and then they would have in here they have the requirement already made. I'm not going to go over requirements right now. You can get rid of it by pressing this X so that your Marine can always use Stim Pack. There, it's none now. And then you select the button, you press OK. And this doesn't matter. And then you can have a cost. You know, as you can see, the cost of Stim Pack, you can have multiple levels if you had a multi-level ability, but we don't in this case. You can see my hero tutorial if you want to know how to do that. You can see that the cost actually, where is it? There you go. It applies 10 life. So that's why when you click Stim Pack, you lose 10 life. It costs 10 to vitals. And then flags, any important flags you want, auto casting, whatever. We don't want any of that. But where's the important thing? The effect. So this ability will apply an effect called Marine Stim Pack Apply Buff. So what the hell does that mean? Well, we can see in our tree view here that there's our effect that this ability applies. And what does this effect do? It applies a buff. So if we go to, hold on, let me see what it's called. It doesn't tell us the type here. But I know from my own experience that it's actually an effective type apply behavior. Because it's going to apply the bonus attack speed that Stim Pack gives you to your unit for whatever seconds. So it's called Marine Stim Pack. Let's find Marine Stim Pack. There it is. So this is the effect that ability was applying. And so what this effect is, it's apply behavior. You can see that when you add a new effect, there's lots of different types. Apply behavior, apply force moves your unit. Create healers, what the medevac uses or whatever. Damage is what weapons use, or like if you made a frostbolt ability, that's what it would do. Actually, frostbolt would launch missile, and then launch missile would damage. Just so you know that. And modify unit could add experience or health. Set could be multiple effects if you wanted to modify a unit and apply damage or something.